Hi everyone, my name is Della Phillips. I'm an artist as well as I'm known as the Bicycle Lady. How you doing today? I'm doing great. So, again, please, if you find this video enjoyable, please click that thumbs up button that you like it. That lets YouTube know if you like what I'm doing. It helps me out a lot, as well as subscribing. There's no charge for it, no obligation, and it really would help me out a lot. What you see here is where I've been practicing my brush work. They say practice, practice, practice. And as you can see, I've been referring to some examples, the different types of shapes that they have listed in the complete Watercolor Essentials notebook, which are great. Plus, they do have shapes for flats as well and a couple other things. So I've been referring to that. I've just finished up practicing my 15 minutes with two different brushes, the round and the flat. So let's move this away and get to a fun little project utilizing some of these brush skills that I'm starting to practice and build on. See you in a sec. Alright, what I put here on my desk is a piece of masonite board in which I've taped down one of my greeting card blanks. I'm sure if you've seen some of my other videos prior to this, that you know I do have some greeting card blanks that I purchased with high hopes, but it turns out I don't really care for them. They're an okay quality. I just don't particularly find them to my liking. And they are the Arteza. However, for this project, it should work just fine. And what I've decided to do is a Christmas wreath. That way I can play around with some very short brush strokes and making holly. Now it's not going to be super realistic, it's going to be more or less representational, but I think it'll turn out nice. What I'm doing here at this point in time is I'm drawing the circle in which to base the wreath, and what I've done is I've used this Minwax polyacrylic spray varnish. Now I don't use this to seal art, it was used for other things, but it made the perfect size of wreath. So I put it down on the card. Now I looked at it, it's not quite in the right position that I want. So here I am, I'm erasing it with one of my favorite erasers, which is the Vanish Eraser. Now, the Vanish Eraser, from my research, was originally formulated and made specifically for color pencil, erasing color pencil. And the great thing I found with it is that it actually will erase to a fair extent even watercolor pencil, at least on the paper I'm using, or papers, that's already been activated, allowed to dry, and it will take up at least half, if not more. And I don't know any other eraser that really has done that. If you do, let me know. Now, here I've repositioned the can. I'm redrawing that circle in which to base the wreath on. That looks good. So let's go a little bit further. And I will want a bow on the wreath. So here I am figuring out how I want that bow. So I start out with a loop. And then I'm going to make like a little rounded square for the knot. And I look at the loop and I went, no, I need a little bit bigger loop. So I brought in my eraser, maybe also a little floppy, so let's make it a little funky. Not quite right, so let me erase and try again. Now, the more times you erase on watercolor paper, or erase at all, it can change the surface texture, in which end result is watercolor can be taken up differently by the paper in those areas that you've roughed up from erasing, even though I'm using a very mild eraser. And that's the reason why when I get more into the watercolor, you'll see that I like to work out the drawing on a separate piece of paper and then transfer it over. And of course I do keep what is referred to as a pattern for documentation of how I drew it and then worked out the drawing. But that makes it great, so even with color pencil as well, you can run into where if the paper changes, that will change the way the outcome of laying down the pencil, which you don't want. Now, the only time I really trace over and use a image is in the case like when I spoke about the book Color Basics, Color, and what you're practicing, which is strictly practice, it's not finished artwork. The other thing is just use your own artwork that you've drawn, and that's legitimate. Tracing other things, if it's just for practice, it's not for sale, you may even shred it like many times I will, because I don't want it around. That's okay, but for original finished artwork you need to do your own drawing, and it is okay to take your own drawing and then transfer it over to where you're going to do the final watercolor or final colored pencil. So what I did is I finally got the bow somewhat what I want. I was lightening up a little bit of a color. Now I did this super dark. Normally if it was me without filming, it wouldn't be probably maybe 1/4 the darkness you see here, but then it would not be picked up on camera. What I've done here is I picked up a brush that was given to me. I came in somebody's a friend's art box that they didn't want. It's fairly cheap. It's a Taklon brush, it's quite stiff. And I won't use it to watercolor with, but it is great to as part of reactivating the colors in this Cotman field box and making up dilutions. And that way you don't wear down your good painting watercolor brush as much. And it saves some wear and tear on it. And so that's what I've done here. Right now I'm playing with, now how am I going to make this holly? Now holly, it's not like 2 points on one side, 2 points on the other side, and a point in the middle. Holly has multiple points and they're not all swooped evenly, unlike some people like to represent it. So I'm just trying to do little points and somewhat uneven and bring them down. Like I said, this is representational. It's not going to be super illustrated pretty, so to speak, with all leaves perfect. Holly's not like that, but they are spiky. And that's what I'm trying to represent here by doing a little swoop with this actually tiny brush, but that's because the size of the holly. And then you'll see me putting in some red dots for holly berries. And I'm not grouping the holly berries in every 3. I kind of like them dispersed among all the leaves randomly and plentifully. So as we go along, I'm putting in more leaves, as you see. And this is going to probably turn out a bit lopsided, even though I did draw a good circle around the can. So it's kind of like, I don't see wreaths that are perfectly round, that is made out of natural material or anything. There's nothing perfect about it. So it will turn out to be slightly imperfect. As I can see here, one side is going a little bit further outside the circle than the other. But that's okay. Like I said, it's representational. And like I said, in real life, it may look close to a real circle, but it's off just a little bit. So I am okay with that. And I do apologize that on occasion you're going to see my head pop in with some my gray hair. And I do have, looks like a bad hair day going on with a piece that's sticking out, so please excuse that. But just continue on with the little project. I just want to show that you can do things to continue practicing your brush work, and that can be fun to do. And I did have fun doing this. Actually, the real-time painting on this was close to 50 minutes, and I got to say, when I first started painting on this, and then when I completed it, I thought it was going to be like 15 minutes at most. It turned out to be around 50 minutes, a little over. So that's the reason why I've compressed it. But I think you can still see everything that I'm doing here. If you want to decompress it and watch it in full length, you can change it in your tools. on your YouTube where it is take it from 4 times as fast back down to normal speed, and then you can follow along with it full length. Now, of course, the audio will change with it as well. But if all you want to see is the painting, turn off the audio and slow down the speed, and then you can see everything that is done real time. So I'm still painting. I am alternating between the 2 greens I mixed up, one that's a very darker green and one that's a lighter, closer to a sap green or yellowish green. And ever so often I do dot in some berries. May not be totally realistic, but I like the color and juxtapose the green. And then I'm still working here to finish up the wreath. And I'm now putting in some more berries, dotting those in. And I'm lightening up the last part of the circle so I can paint that. And I'm really happy with it. I did put it aside for a while, and I brought it back out and looked at it again, and I think it'll make a pretty decent Christmas card that I can send out or give out. So that way I can practice and have a use for my practice as well. So it's a multi-win situation here. I'm practicing brush strokes, figuring out how to do things, although it doesn't look like it always that I'm doing a real long, it's just a very choppy brush stroke. But still, that's how you practice control of your brush, knowing how to handle the brush and have an experience. Now I'm lightening up the bow, and I'll be painting that in now. And I have decided to go with a yellow. I start with one yellow. I take that off, and now I'm going to go in with the cadmium yellow. And I'm painting everything in. There's the background. I do have some twists and turns, if you've seen when I drew in, it looked like. And I'll be accenting that shortly. The other thing I'm adding is a little bit of burnt sienna to try to give a little darker area. And I'm coming back in to push away some of the wet cadmium, as wet and wet, with the light lemon yellow color that's in my Cotman box. And here you see me kind of working and seeing about maybe darkening some areas I need to darken. And just kind of playing around and seeing what I like and like how it looks when I put down the paint. As go on with more and more practice, I expect I'll get more exact and less fussing around with it. But we'll see. That will be one of the goals. And now I'm done. Hope you enjoyed this. If so, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helped me out with YouTube. You have a wonderful day.